Hi everybody, welcome back. This is very much a head empty wrap up / TBR video because I'm doing this on a whim, and this is mostly just a wrap up, but I did not go through my reading journal. Sorry, it's my cat. I did not go through my reading journal to see my thoughts. I just have to hope that I remember my thoughts on these books. Anyways, I'm just gonna go right into it. We're gonna start with my wrap up, my June wrap up. I read 5 books, a very average number for me. I usually read about 5 books, 5 to 7 at the most, usually about 5. However, it was kind of, I don't know, it was like a good reading month at first, and then it was a bad reading month for a while. But I read Fruits Baskets volumes 7 and 8. And if we're gonna be honest here, I cannot remember exactly my ratings for these two, except that I definitely enjoyed them. I don't think I've disliked a Fruits Baskets. I think this one's my least favorite one that I've read so far, number 8. Anyways, I talked about Fruits Baskets so much on this channel that it's kind of just like, I've talked it into the ground, all right? I don't think we need to really go into crazy detail with this, especially because I have other books that I can talk about in, I think, pretty good detail. After that, I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I absolutely love this book. This was an easy 5 out of 5 stars, and I don't know, I feel like normally I don't really give into the hype of really hyped up book talk books and stuff like that, but I was super intrigued by this one. I love the cover, I love the sprayed edges, I love that it had dragons, I love that it was enemies to lover, I love all of that. So I was super interested in it, so I just decided to go for it really quickly. Like, I bought this in May, like the end of May, I think, or like for my birthday. I just loved it so much, and I am so excited because the next book comes out in November. But basically this follows a young woman named Violet, and she is going into the writer's quadrant or whatever of this fantasy world. There's different quadrants with like different professions, I guess is a way to explain that. I kind of jumped into that with no prior explanation, but yeah. She, like, there's a scribe quadrant and stuff like that. She's going into the writer's quadrant, which is the most dangerous, and many people die in like their training and like their hopes to become a writer. And most of these people have also been training their entire lives to be a writer, and Violet has not, because she was intended to be a scribe, and then her mother is like, no, actually, JK, you're gonna be a writer, just like me. And she makes it, she goes through it, and it just kind of follows her and her struggles to become a writer, as well as her falling in love with someone that she is not supposed to fall in love with. And there's great beginnings to politics. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of politics in this one, but the end of the book does have some political setup for what's to come in the future books, which I really like because I really love politics in fantasy books. The romance was really fun. I like Violet as a character, and it had really good EDS syndrome representation, and it was just really good. I think that it fully deserves all the hype that it's been getting. Easy 5 out of 5 stars, probably the best book, or one of the best books I've read all year, and I just really loved it. And I've been like telling my friends to read it. This is one of those books that I think deserves the hype, and there are some people that don't think it deserves the hype, and that's totally fine, but I think for how fun and how entertaining and how well done it is, I think that alone is just worth the read, even if it's not like the best book you read all year. However, it's like my favorite book that I've read all year, so works for me, you know. After that, I went on vacation and I brought Yellowface by R.F. Kuang with me. R.F. Kuang is my auto-buy author. I absolutely love her. She wrote the Poppy War trilogy and Babel, which also only came out like a few months ago. And this is her first, I guess, her first literary fiction novel. But this basically follows our main character, June, who is a white woman. She's a writer, and she's not very successful. She loves writing, but it just isn't working out for her in the publishing industry. And one of her friends, Athena, is an Asian woman, and she's an extremely successful writer. She is like a phenomenon, and everyone loves her. And one night, while June and Athena are hanging out, Athena dies very unexpectedly, and June steals Athena's big, crazy manuscript and publishes it as her own. And this just follows June on that journey of becoming such a popular phenomenon, just like Athena was. And it is a crazy ride, and it shows you a really great insight into the publishing world, and it does such a good job of like this being told from the POV of the villain. I don't know why I air quoted that, of the villain of the story, even though she's not like, you know, she's not like a murderer, she's not like any of these things, she just does some pretty fucked up things. And I thought it was really entertaining. However, it made me so angry at times, that it was like almost a struggle to read, even though it was so short. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars, maybe a 4.5, 4 to 4.5, maybe 4.25 if we're gonna be particular here. But I really enjoyed it. It was just a very hard read in terms of like, it wasn't enjoyable. Like, you ever read a book that like, you know, is really well done, and like it's well written, the story is great, like it's a good book, but it's not an enjoyable book. I don't know if any of you have read Nightcrawling. Nightcrawling to me was also not an enjoyable book, just because of how difficult it was. Like, the subject matter was difficult to read. This was kind of like that for me as well. But I gave it a 4 stars. I think it's 100% worth the read. It has a really important subject matter. And R.F. Kuang is always great. Her writing is so good. She is so phenomenal. She deserves all the hype in the world. But yeah, I read Yellowface, 4.25 stars. Very good. And then at this point, like by the time I finished this, it was like the middle of June. And then I only read one more book for the whole month. Good for me. I feel like I was in like a little bit of a slump for a bit. And it's because I read the 4th Game of Thrones book, which, to be fair, is extremely long. It's A Feast for Crows. This, I can't go in crazy detail because it is the 4th book in a series, and I have talked about Game of Thrones on my channel before. This is, like, so Game of Thrones always takes me a long time to read all of them. They always take me, like, at least 10 days to read one of them because they're, like, 1,000 pages each. Like, this one was about 1,000 pages, but this one was my least favorite by far out of all of them. Like, this is like, I think like 3.5 stars. Like, so it was good. Like, the story, like the series is still good. This book itself though just follows characters that I don't really give a fuck about, and I don't really want to read from their perspective, and it's like constantly that. Like, it is literally constantly other people's POVs that I just don't care about. And there was a lot of just politics, and it almost felt like just like a little like filler. It felt like a filler book, which I understand, like filler chapters or something like that in a book, but a whole entire filler book for a series is hard. And it's not that what happened in this book wasn't important, it was just that it was so like, I wanted to know what was happening to other characters, but we needed to know what was happening behind the scenes, because what happens here is going to matter to those characters later, and there's just too much to like insinuate. You can't insinuate, you need to know. I get it. I just wish that it was these POVs plus the POVs that I was wanting. I know the next book is like of the main characters again, and that's great. I just know that this was definitely a choice by George R.R. Martin. That was a choice to write it this way. And do I respect the choice? Yes. Do I agree with it? Definitely not. But yeah, so continuing my Game of Thrones journey here, as I'm also watching it. But yeah, that's my little wrap up. Only a few books, 5 books, and I literally can't even really talk in detail about 3 of them because I just read series here. Great. But I have a little TBR for July as well. It's already July 5th. I'm a little late doing this, and I have already read 2 books. It's July 5th. Did I just say that? I probably did. I read A Dowry of Blood by something Gibson. I read it for my book club. I'll tell you about it in my next wrap up. I'm not going to go into detail, but that was part of my TBR and I already read it. I also want to read City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. I read this book when I was 14. I was rereading The Mortal Instruments because I want to be a part of this world because it's so iconic. And then I left off for like 5 months, 6 months. So I want to read this. I want to get there. Of course, I need to read the next Game of Thrones book, especially because I just worked so hard. I worked so hard to get through that book. I've earned this. I have earned the right to read this book. However, I cannot read it right now. Like, I cannot read it right now because it was so hard. I'm excited though. I'm excited to know. But I'm also mad. Okay, this is a Game of Thrones rant today. I am also pissed because this book does not get you to the end of the show, so I still can't talk about it with my roommates who have obviously read, like, they've watched the whole show. I have not because I'm reading them, and I'm just waiting for that last, well, there's 2 more books, I think. I'm in a struggle right now. Anyways, I want to read the 5th Game of Thrones book. My rant, calm down, it's over. Of course I need to read the next Fruits Baskets. I'm almost done with it. It's great. It's cute. There's nothing else I can say about Fruits Baskets at this point. And this is where the video kind of just cuts short because I have other books on my TBR here. Like, I'm going to show you, but I can't like show you. Ugh. This is for a video. So it's like a secret TBR. But there's 4 more books, and those were all picked by my fiance David for me to read this month. But just a quick little head empty Game of Thrones rant, and those are the books I read in June. Those are some of the books I want to read in July. I will be having a reading blog come out soon-ish. And yeah, that's all I have. Head empty. Great to see you. Thank you.